It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 456. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Damn.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Welcome to ZomboCom.
Whew. Wow.
So I've got a really quick reprisal from a topic from last week. Is last week we talked about some of the stuff that came out over BlizzCon, and I feel like the WoW news was directly targeted at me, aka someone who has been gone from World of Warcraft long enough to where we had no expectations whatsoever with what we were going to see. I was shocked to find out that there's a not insignificant number of WoW pundits that seemed to have been unimpressed by the news.
I'm not call it surprising.
I mean, I thought it was the best news that they've ever released about World of Warcraft. It was the first time that everything was universally positive. Because WoW had this design ethic of, we're going to give you something good, but we're going to make it shitty in the process. It's the whole Simpsons, tainted crusty doll thing where you get a new a free Frogurt, but the Frogurt has potassium benzoate in it or whatever. It's you can't have a nice thing without getting something horrible in the process. So transmog went in, but then there's all these weird restrictions that make transmog kind of crappy at the same time. But all of the things they announced were all kind of universally positive things. But I guess the thing that people took as a bad thing is there was no playable demo on the floor. And maybe vertical slices prepared for a convention are a bad idea.
That seems like the insideriest of insidery baseball complaints.
Right? Yeah. The thing that got me was, hey, it turns out I'm not actually that excited about the prospect of Metzen being back.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was one thing or another.
I mean, I'm not convinced that's a downgrade.
I mean, fair, but I hear you, but also I can't say that playing a game of Metzen's writing is that exciting to me in 2023.
Right, Metzen apart from Metzen, I was just talking about the features they were adding in. A group content that is scalable from 1 to 5 players and provides end-game rewards. Okay, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, being able to play with whatever friends, regardless of server and faction. That's pretty big.
Not just cross-faction guilds, but now cross-server guilds. Okay, that's cool. Them removing weird restrictions about cross-server raiding. I'm not probably ever going to go back to raiding, but that's a cool thing. The stuff about the warband of pushing everything to account-based progression, that sounds awesome too. Grinding faction on multiple characters sucks. So it felt like to me there was just, okay, these are all net positives. Sweet. But I mean, I listened to a roundtable discussion earlier, and there's a couple of videos that came out during the week as well, but I was listening to one that had Dan Olson of Folding Ideas on it, of all people, and he kind of talked about all the ways he was disappointed with the reveals at BlizzCon. I'm okay.
I mean, I don't know what the current state of the game is, so maybe they've got some valid complaints, but as someone who is now an outsider who has some nostalgia and would poke their head in, most of what I heard was positive. But yeah, maybe it's not enough to placate folks who are, living and breathing WoW still. But for me, I'm happy that it's enough that it piqued my interest that maybe I'll go poke around.
Yeah. There were some discussions about it feeling like it was very light on new features, but like that's to me has kind of been the problem with World of Warcraft is create a feature and then immediately remove it. So
it's like they're the Pokemon company or something.
Maybe don't do that and just make good content for the features you already have. I don't know. But anyway, I found that interesting how stark of a different take I was hearing from people who live and breathe like WoW, and me who is a total outsider now at this point and really was expecting nothing and was pleasantly surprised. And like Elian is always happy about whatever's coming out for whatever game. So like Elian is not always like the greatest litmus test on how, the WoW community is reacting to something, because Elian is super mild mannered, like, and generally seems to like all of it. So like, I mean, Elian was excited. I was vaguely excited by it. So I thought, okay, cool. This is a win, but apparently no. But then again, like maybe some people just are professional complainers about WoW at this point. But it does make me wonder if like the community at this point is so bitter that it's going to take just a mountain of content to move the needle. Anyway, Risk of Rain returns.
So this week, a game came out called Risk of Rain Returns, which is a remake, remaster, not sure how you'd call it, of Risk of Rain 1. It is, to back up, if you're not familiar with Risk of Rain, it is a roguelike that came out. It's going to hurt me to say it, isn't it? Is it 11 or is it 10 years old?
It's real old. Like, I don't know how
10
real old is, but yeah. It's
almost exactly 10 years old.
Yep.
But this was one of the earlier roguelites that came out before the big giant wave that mostly led by Binding of Isaac, and is one of my favorite games of all time, just straight up. It got a sequel in 2020 called Risk of Rain 2 that I didn't play very much of because it got a sequel in 2020, and yeah, things happened that year. But this is like, it is still a 2D pixel art game, but they have redrawn all of the sprites. They've introduced alternate abilities, which came in Risk of Rain 2. They've added a few characters. You have 2 characters to start with, so you don't have to start with a commando if you don't want to.
That's a plus. I like the other character.
The other character is the Huntress, so I hope you like kiting.
I mean, I did enough of it in World of Warcraft.
And this is just like Risk of Rain as you remember Risk of Rain, without having to go back and play the 10-year-old actual Risk of Rain. For example, you don't have to open up ports in your router to try to play multiplayer.
That's a whole thing.
And I remember you and I playing it and it taking us a bit to get connected.
Yeah, it was an ordeal. And definitely that it was lived in a few locations where I'd never managed to get it working at all. However, because I was really feeling Risk of Rain, I did pull Kodra and Tam into playing the sequel with me a little earlier this week.
It was really good. I think Risk of Rain plays much better in 3 dimensions than it ever did in 2.
That's my take too. It was really fun.
Is this a separate game purchase?
It is. Well, what do you mean? Risk of Rain 2 or Risk of Rain Returns?
Risk of Rain Returns.
It is a separate purchase,
Returns
yes.
is a new purchase.
Okay,
It is not an expensive purchase. It's like $12.
Well, they never are, but yeah, I just didn't know if it was something I could download right away, because like I've got Risk of Rain and I've got Risk of Rain 2. I just haven't picked up this one.
My take on this is probably that it seems like Hoopu, the developer of this, or Hoppo, I don't know how they pronounce it, decided they don't want to make Risk of Rain anymore, and so they sold the IP rights to Gearbox.
They did do this some time ago.
This is probably Gearbox being like, hey, we own this thing. Oh, we don't want people to look at this thing. Let's fix it up.
So thing from this weekend is it is the Blast from the Past event in Path of Exile, which is a rerun and remix of both the Sentinel League and the Lake of Kalandra League. And one, those two mechanics are super complementary of each other. And two, I really do not feel like the Lake of Kalandra got a proper shake just because of the poor state of the game at that time. Because it's rather fun. Like, I like the lake.
So possibly, I again, now that I realize that the game really doesn't start until well into the game, I don't actually know anything about like why you would pursue the Lake of Kalandra as a mechanic.
I mean, it's just basically a build your own map.
It is a build your own map. That's a little bit interesting. I kind of wish the selections I was making felt like it had more impact on like what I would like. I'm making this map because it's going to give me a whole bunch of currency, or I'm building this map because it's going to really give me good access to like some specific type of gear.
I kind of feel like Lake of Kalandra suffers from the same problem that all League mechanics have, to where you have to play the League mechanic to like get good stuff from the League mechanic. Because like there's a whole sequence of things that unlock as you're playing Lake of Kalandra, so that you get, you know, additional rerolls, you get the ability to ban certain tiles. You can move the entrances to, you know, the map and try and extend it further, and all of that stuff happens in more frequency as you go on, and you also get better tiles.
Like
that are more difficult ones.
Yeah, the more interesting tiles don't start showing up until you're higher level. Like Kalandra's a really good source of essences, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, because like if you really want essences, you can, in theory, you know, walk out with like 8 essence monsters or something on a map without really breaking a sweat. Because
I feel like I can also get a lot of essences by just mapping really quickly.
You absolutely can. I don't know, like it's...
Yeah, I guess my thing is like, if the game wanted you to fight specific types of monsters, or if fighting specific types of monsters was like an interesting choice, I think it'd be super interesting to be like, I'm going to chart.
Those are the filler tiles you don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they get way better later.
Yeah. All the fire monster, ice monster, lightning monster, those are the tiles you want to...
Crabs.
Yeah, those are the tiles you want to skip. And
yeah,
the further in you get, the more you can skip those and ban them.
Okay. So those are just bad.
Those are the filler tiles. Those are I don't have anything better to put here tiles. The tiles you want are like, this tile has 3 or more essence monsters just in a little pack.
No,
or this is Breach or Harbinger, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess I'll take a bear. I don't mind drafting a bear. That's fine. It's not exciting, but it's fine.
Yeah, basically the 2 benefits of Kalandra are you can pack a whole lot of guaranteed map mechanics into one single map, and you can roll the dice on taking a piece of jewelry and giving it some just absurd, no other way to get numbers this big stats.
Well, and there's also things on the jewelry from Kalandra that you can't get anywhere else in the game. Like there's Kalandra specific rolls that are specifically some of the explicits that you get on rings. You know, there's some stuff like, you know, equip it in the left ring does this, equip it in the right ring does that type mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, so the jewelry and just having access to other leagues mechanics while chasing jewelry is kind of a thing. Also, you can get like remixed versions of map bosses, and a lot of people would stack nothing but those. So you run one Kalandra map and you basically just get like a bunch of map bosses.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It just, as you level, it doesn't present that way.
Right. But it's basically free content because you're going to be running maps anyway. so you might as well build a Kalandra map while you're at it.
Do they continue to show up in every single map?
Every single map, yes.
So
it's kind of like Metamorph, because like Metamorph is cool in a map to fight a rogue Metamorph or to generate 1 or 2 Metamorphs at the end of the map, but then you also get like all of their organs, and that's just free to me. Like that's extra stuff that you get to do later.
Sure, I kind of get what except interacting with the map is kind of a nothing event. Like the whole point of Kalandra is the thing you're doing at the end. Whereas like Metamorph, when a Metamorph shows up in the map, like you still get to do a whole Metamorph encounter, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's.
I actually prefer it to something like, say, the Temple of Etzoatl, which has gameplay involved in choosing the rooms, but it's much harder to actually, do that sometimes.
It is.
Definitely agree. I really prefer just being able to walk up to the pedestal and make my choices and move on with my life.
Right. I mean, because like I will skip Alva on almost every single map that she appears, just because I'm doing something else. Like I don't want to take the time it does to run the extra map inside of my map.
Yeah, this is where I realize that I'm doing this thing where I like to do all of the content.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, if I don't have points invested in the content in the Atlas, it's rarely really worth doing.
I mean, I'm finding that Delve is pretty fun, and I don't have any points invested in that.
Yeah, but Delve doesn't have anything that you can invest in the Atlas that changes the state of how Delve works.
This is true, which is why I don't think I'm gonna continue to not investing in Delve.
Yeah, investing in Delve just means you can delve more.
Yeah, it's more efficient for you to get back down into the mines. But whereas like if you run a Legion event with no investment in the tree versus a Legion event with all the points in the tree, it is a massive difference in the amount of stuff you get.
Same thing with Breach.
Oh yeah, Breach is super fun. And
Breach is a waste of time if you don't have points in Breach.
I can get that. I did the Breach map, which got me enough points to do more Breach, and like now I kind of want to invest in Breach.
I did. This is the first league I ever did anything with Breach or Legion, and they're both amazing, but you really need to tailor your tree to it.
Yeah. The other thing that this league has is Sentinel, and I think Sentinel is such a cool mechanic. I love it so much. It's a shame it's tied to completely broken loot that they can never allow see the light of day ever again.
I legitimately wonder if this rerun of these two together is a sign that they're working on some combination of the two to go into standard.
Recombinators are a 10 on the Storm scale.
They are way too good.
They are.
They are, in fact, a 10 on the Storm scale.
Mark Rosewater would never let them see the light of day again in this game. But yeah, like that's the problem. Like this is an actually really interesting problem that I do think Sentinel is a really good mechanic. But it's like tied to this loot that warps the game. Like the fact is people are like, oh, we don't know what this is going to do to Standard League. Like there's going to be some items that are generated this week that are now just the best ever item to exist in Standard League, and no one could ever come close.
Nobody plays Standard League. Come on. They don't care.
Some people do play, and those people are going crazy for this event.
They do, but like that is a totally different type of game that in Standard than what League play looks like.
Next, you have to deal with 10 years worth of people's currency build-up.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because like they still technically have whatever the orb is that doesn't imprint, like that's other than Beastcraft imprinting. There's all kinds of stuff rat-holed in Standard that like makes it a weird place to be.
Yeah, I do hope that they figure out how to make Sentinels work, tie it to a different loot concept, and do that.
I really like just Sentinels themselves. They're really cool.
Sentinels as a mechanic feel like Tormented Spirits, but good.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I do feel like Sentinels give you this interesting thing, and I don't know, like, Sentinels give you control, and I don't know how much of the devs like you to feel like you have control. Now generally, it's control to make terrible decisions, but
they're usually okay with you choosing to make terrible decisions.
That's
the entire point of Delirium, after all.
I have the option to make this thing harder.
It's true, but like I feel like there's a pitch meeting at GGG where they're like, somebody's like, Sentinels are just the good version of Tormented Spirits, and the other person's like, yeah, but Tormented Spirits, they just show up randomly. That's obviously better.
Yeah, but they just gave players the ability to be the Tormented Spirit and paint the entire map with bonus loot. So like, I feel like that's not that different than what you can do with a Sentinel. Like, does that require more setup? Yes. But also, if you want to use some of the Sentinels effectively, you kind of have to do the same setup. So like, I think it's the Pandemonium one that like basically flags an entire pack that's on screen at once. Like, basically everything that's in the range of the Sentinel, when you pop it, becomes empowered. That is amazing for the expedition node that blows everything up all at once. So like, you can blow everything up at once and then pop the Pandemonium Sentinel, which, you know, applies that to all of the expedition mobs that you just spawned.
Bad ideas on bad ideas.
Exactly. It sounds so amazing. Like, I love the one big bomb expeditions. It's so much fun. Does it cause dumb things to happen? Yes, it does.
Yeah, I enjoy these bad decisions. It's just it is interesting. It does give you more control. I love it though, yeah. And I love the Sentinel tree. I think it's very cool. It does seem to print currency in kind of a ludicrous fashion.
It is a good source of currency, yes.
I mean, it's a lot like Legion in that, you know, the mobs that get flagged as having a special currency tend to pay out real well.
I mean, I think I had 3 chaos by the end of Act 3. That's not usual for me.
I will say this is the slowest that I've gone through the campaign in a while because I kept doing lakes and slowing myself down.
Yeah, I keep using my Sentinel in a zone, so I have to, like, you know, find enough stuff to
enough
for the
density
Sentinel
to make
zap,
it worthwhile. Yeah,
and then spend the time to kill those things instead of just, you know, booking it through the zone. And then also, Kalandra.
I mean, I feel like the Sentinel encourages me to rush a zone more.
Well, the Stalker does. The Pandemonium, you really want to drag a bunch of stuff around and then pop it so that you can get more things flagged at once.
I have yet to get any.
It's actually kind of difficult when you have an RF build.
They don't start showing up till pretty late.
I got a number of them.
Really? I've got one Apex.
I got a lot of Apex, so but no Pandemoniums.
I think I've got.
I mean, I also spec'd into Pandemoniums. Maybe that's why.
I don't know. Maybe like I basically made a beeline to Pandemonium as soon as, like, basically that's the second one I unlocked, because the Apex ones are fine, but like they're not that useful if you can only really use them on uniques.
I mean, it helps if you have the node that lets you dismiss and redeploy them.
Right.
Because then you can, use all of their uses without needing to have that many things all gathered together at once. But yeah, I don't know. I've just boosted Stalker a whole lot, mostly for and the power cores duplicated, Sentinels duplicated, all that stuff.
I've refilled a couple of times on Sentinels.
Is that what power cores do?
Yeah.
Basically, power cores let you combine 2 Sentinels, and it randomly grabs properties from both of those 2 Sentinels and shoves them into the new Sentinel.
But it also, if you have 2 empties, you can use a power core to create a filled Sentinel. So it's worth holding on to your empties, because you can then use those to feed into power cores and generate new Sentinels based on a combination of the traits.
It's not worth hanging on your empties if they have nothing on them.
Yeah,
Don't hang
only
on
the
your
ones that
empties.
actually have
Right.
the
Like
abilities.
I only do this for yellows. Like, because you can't actually craft on a sentinel. Like, it would be lovely if you could throw like an alch at them or something, but
I have mostly been using this as sort of a refresher on how the leveling process goes ahead of Bell League.
that's more or less what I used is to test out something I was wanting to do for Bell League.
Because I don't level enough, and so it's been a while since I leveled my character up, and so I'm doing another minor. It's been really fun.
Yeah, YouTube blew me out of the water yesterday because I needed to mule a witch, and then there were issues, and then I went away for dinner, and by the time I came back, y'all were so far ahead of me.
I mean, I spent a lot of yesterday looking after kids and playing on my Steam Deck, which is not the optimal way to play, but I do manage to have fun with it. Also, boy, this build is so much fun.
I mean, on the one hand, it's a whole lot of fun to set up an entire field of 24 mines while the boss is monologuing and then just delete the boss. Like, that's hilarious, and I love it. On the other hand, this is the squishiest thing I have ever played. Ever.
Are you using Grace?
Yes.
Are you using Skitters?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so squishy.
Grace is not a magic fix-all button.
Yeah, I mean, Grace means I don't get hit for half my life as often.
Oh yes, you're definitely getting hit for half your life. Obviously, that's a good hit.
Yeah.
So there's a button.
I feel you, Thalen.
There's a button called Flame Dash. You can use it a
Yes,
lot.
I do. I'm flame dashing and shield charging a whole lot. But I do have to stand still for a moment every time I throw a mine. And I do need to throw more than one mine for them to actually be good.
For.
Eventually. Then you have to stand still for a longer moment to throw 5 mines. It's just,
I will say,
it's just very dangerous.
Oh, is it? You have 6 portals.
6 portal defense is not fun.
Oh, it's very fun.
I don't know. Like
I don't know. Like
I feel like there's a key difference in the parameters of enjoyment here.
This is just as completely oppositional to the RF Juggernaut as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I know.
It is quite the change.
I enjoy pressing buttons. I will say I also enjoy going fast and seeing things fall over. Like when I get my Hex Blast set up online and I get to just delete stuff. It's incredible. Also, if I want, I can do some of the RF is not going to be capable of doing some of the stuff I do, like Sanctum.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I will say this week was also a bunch of big accomplishments for me. I killed the Maven. I killed Uber Elder, so I got my 4 keystones. So I was very excited about that. And I feel like some of those bosses would be miserable on RF because I don't think you're tanky enough to survive some of that stuff.
I mean, you have to know what to dodge and be really quick dodging it because some of that stuff is just unavoidable and just will kill you.
The problem with Maven is the degen, and it basically shuts off your regeneration, which just wrecks you as an RF because you were doing so much damage to yourself.
Oh, the degen pool she drops?
Yep. If you get touched by that at all, you're just gonna go down because on top of the damage it's dealing, it shut off your regen, so you're taking all the damage of your Righteous Fire in addition to that. Like, I've come real close to killing Maven, but the problem that I have with the way bosses work in Path of Exile, it is such a pain in the ass to get the invite to do the boss.
Oh, I will not disagree with this statement.
To get a Maven, that basically is an entire day's worth of work to farm enough splinters to get a Maven invite. So it just takes forever. And I eventually get to the point where I don't even want to mess with it. I'm sitting on a couple of Maven tokens, I think. but it's just like, I don't know if I care enough.
I will say I understand. I killed Maven on my first attempt of her. I actually did it with only one portal. One death, I should say. And then I have failed Cirrus twice. So
I took out Cirrus my first attempt. And it was just because, most of the things that he was doing weren't that dangerous. The only thing I had to watch out for was the meteor.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, like his beams were fine. The puddles on the ground sucked, but like I died slow enough that I could easily get out of them.
Yeah, if he calls out his like 4-beam shot, it's gonna kill me.
Oh yeah, no, that you can actually outrange, because there's a lot of the arena that isn't active when he's doing stuff, and if you have enough time, you can just go out to another part of the arena where he's not at and wait for him to finish his nonsense and then come back.
Interesting. I felt like I was pretty pinned in by storms.
Maybe it's because I could charge through a storm without issue.
Oh yeah, no, I cannot. Those storms will kill me.
Yeah, I mean, like they'll kill me slowly, but I could shield charge through a storm without an issue and get out of bounds.
No, he will kill me if I try and shield. I'm pretty sure I should test that, but I'm pretty sure that would kill me. But yeah, no, this build is fun. It does take some time to get used to the fact that you have to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the builds, honestly. Like they, especially in softcore, they just assume you're gonna die all the time, and it always feels real bad when I die because I do not love the death penalty.
I will say it's definitely been more frustrating once I got above. I'm gonna say level
95 is the real change. Like,
yeah, well, I what's the value of getting higher than that? Like 5 more passive points isn't as big of a damage boost or as big of a like character defining thing. I feel like
I don't know. I usually want at least 98 points, and getting to 98 doesn't seem too terribly bad. But getting from 98 to 100 is a slog. I did it this league for the first time. I've gotten to 99 before, but like getting to 100 was a slog.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with getting to 95. That's probably good for me, and I've done quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you've kind of done most of the stuff other than Ubers.
I tried an Uber.
What did you try?
I tried Uber Cortex.
Okay, I've never fought Cortex, so I don't know anything about the Cortex fight.
I fought a Cortex, and then I honestly kind of wish I could go back and look at my first Cortex, but I picked up a map that was in the guild bank for Cortex, and I didn't really pay much attention to it, and then I went in, because whatever, map modifiers are meh for me. Like, I don't care about most map modifiers. I cared about this map's modifiers. Monsters had 874% increased critical strike chance, 87% increased crit multiplier, dealt around 200% extra physical damage as fire, and 200% extra physical damage as lightning.
I don't know
Yikes.
that is what people say when they talk about fighting Cortex. Because I think there's like a different boss version of Cortex.
No,
There
Cortex
is.
has a bunch of synthesized mods on it. So it's a boss arena with a bunch of random mods.
It's a boss
Okay.
arena with a area at the start. I died twice in the opening trash area because the mobs were that lethal.
Okay. Then I have fought Cortex a bunch of times. I thought Cortex was something else.
Did you
Like-
fight Venarius at the end?
Yeah.
They're okay. If you fought Venarius, you fought Cortex.
Okay.
I mean,
I remember
Venarius
getting-
is in the arena, but he's not really the boss.
It's true. I did
Yeah.
not get past phase 1 of Uber Venarius, but that map's modifiers were also bonkers. So I don't know if a less bonkers Cortex would have been more reasonable.
I don't know. I've done a couple of those Cortex maps like that before, and I just threw them into the guild bank because I was winding down.
Yeah, I had that map had 262% item quant. I have never seen a loot shower like that map. I didn't kill the boss, but I got a lot of value out of that map. But yeah, I mean, I've killed Uber at Ziri, but I don't think she counts as an Uber.
I mean, I feel like people consider her an Uber, but she doesn't actually count for any of the achievements.
She does count.
Yeah.
Uber at Ziri is required to do the feared, which I am going to try. Wish me luck.
I mean, that may be why some of this stuff is harder, is that you're witnessing it, because witnessing makes things more difficult.
I mean, especially my version of witnessing, because she does summon extra bosses.
Right.
Because I am spec'd into Maven witnessing.
So I think we talked about Cities Skylines 2 a couple weeks ago, but Thalen, you've since played it?
Yeah, I picked it up and I've played a little bit, not I think as much as Tam. Mostly because I played it and ran into the issue initially that garbage was just weird.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out there were like at least 3 different separate bugs affecting garbage that combined meant that mostly garbage didn't matter, and then suddenly your city is drowning in garbage and you cannot do anything about it.
Yes.
And this was apparently a combination of like garbage trucks spontaneously generating garbage while like calculating something, and the import-export values for garbage being just completely wonky. So, like early on, I had a landfill built. It was not doing anything. All my garbage was being exported, presumably. Not that there was any way that I could find to tell that was happening. But the landfill was just, sitting there, requiring me to spend money every month to keep it for upkeep and doing nothing, which irritated me. They have since apparently fixed this, although it's hard for me to tell because in the same patch they appear to have introduced a random crash bug, and I crashed 3 times in the process of working on a new city before I even got up to 100 population, and decided to take a break until the next patch comes out. Because
that was my choice.
Yeah, I'm hoping the next patch fixes that, and then everything is nice and clean. Because pre-crash patch, apart from garbage, I was enjoying the game. It's a fun game.
It's really neat, and the garbage thing is solvable in stupid ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently you could build a landfill, let it fill up, and then delete the landfill, and all the garbage would go away with it, which is not how it's supposed to work, but okay.
It's an old Cities Skylines 1 exploit.
Yeah.
I tried to play a little bit of it this week because it's available on Game Pass, so I just downloaded it and installed it. And I think it might be a little higher fidelity than what I actually want. I played quite a bit of Cities Skylines 1, but I think mentally I just wasn't ready for the level of detail that Cities Skylines has.
Yeah.
It lets you go real deep if you
does.
I think what I want realistically is SimCity 2000 just prettier.
Yeah.
Just no deeper than that. That's all I don't want to go any deeper, but I don't think that exists because I don't think there's much of a market for it.
Yeah, when is the last time a SimCity came out?
The one with all the microtransactions? I don't know how many years ago that was. I think they've mostly put their effort in a mobile version.
That makes sense. A long time from what I can tell. A long, long time.
Maybe 2015-ish or so, 2013-ish.
It looks like there was one that came out 10 years ago and has been referred to as one of the most disastrous launches in history. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That's the most recent just SimCity game. So I think Cities Skylines seems to be basically the only player in that sector that I am aware of. Right. I'm not aware of any other city builders.
I mean, Dwarf Romantic, but
I
It's
mean,
not
that's-
exactly the same.
nobody's really
That's a
doing
puzzle game.
city builders in the like real world.
yeah.
Let's simulate the city style.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that you can get really granular about what systems you want to be dealing with in Cities Skylines 2, but I don't know how true that is, and I don't know where to find it.
hmm
Yeah, like if I could take Cities Skylines and say, okay, just handle all these things I don't want to care about. I just want to build cities. Like that would probably be great because like you can do amazing things in those games. Like the level of detail is great, but like I think it was just the headspace I was in the other day when I tried it. I'm like I noped out pretty quickly because it was just no, this is too much.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's rather complex.
I mean, I say that as I'm diving into nonsense in Path of Exile.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I have to be in the right headspace for something like that.
It's a different sort of complex.
I mean, I've heard, speaking of complex games, I've heard Age of Wonders 4 is really good,
I enjoyed what I played of it so far.
but also I think it has a lot more complexity than Age of Wonders 3 did.
It kind of, but not really. It's just different complexity.
Okay. What is BOKURA?
Ooh.
Man,
BOKURA.
a game that popped up because there's a whole bunch of 2-player co-op games that I've played, and Steam thought I would like it.
It was probably right.
Well, we're talking about it, so presumably it was right.
Yeah, it's a co-op puzzle. It's a co-op puzzle platformer. There's quite a lot. There's quite a few fairly good co-op puzzle platformers out there.
When you say co-op puzzle platformer, Ibn Ab is the first thing to come to mind.
Yeah, Ibn Ab is sort of an early take on the concept, and there are a lot of good co-op puzzle platformers now. Like I've gushed and in various things that are like just 2-player co-op games in general. Haven comes to mind, but this is like a very classic style pixel art puzzle platformer. And it's got an interesting twist to it. What got me to pick it up and try it was the detail page warning that you need some way to communicate with your partner because the game won't provide it. Get some voice chat or whatever.
This is definitely important.
Yeah, because it's not long before you and the other person you're playing with are not seeing the same things.
Like this game looks immensely weird.
Oh boy, sure
You're-
is.
It sure is. You're also not interacting with the world in the same way.
Yeah,
And so, like, suddenly, your partner is just flying. And you're like, what is going on? How are you flying? Can I fly too? No, I die. I go down that pit and die. And you're talking on voice chat, and your partner's like, what are you talking about? What pit? There's no pit on my screen. The pit you're walking on top of. This is solid ground. Now solve puzzles this way.
it's a lot of like, what exactly are you seeing? And boy, it gets weird.
It gets weird. It gets dark. There's some trauma to be had. Lots of trauma.
Yeah, it's like you know how Miyazaki makes when Miyazaki decides to go dark, he goes like really sticks with you kind of dark.
Oh yeah.
This is in that vein. Like we had a moment where we realized that we were seeing, I mean, like it's not just like you see the layout of the world differently, like literally what you see in the world is different. The art style is different.
Right.
I spent most of the game looking at this just unbelievably bleak and like post-apocalyptic looking robot and dead plants kind of environment.
Yeah, and I looked at everything, and it was an idyllic, like, I am an anthropomorphic animal, you're an anthropomorphic animal. Everything we see is kind of anthropomorphic animals.
I was like, wow, that sounds so pleasant.
No.
And then we run into this, for me, robot dog, and the robot dog has like an elevator in its back. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool little thing.
that robot dog is an actual dog, and when the elevator goes up, its spine is shooting out of its back and forming into a spinal ladder for you to climb.
Yeah.
The story of the game is also very much about two people who are experiencing the world in very different ways. Like, there's this terrible moment where, like, one of the kids is like, hey, you two adults, you need to stop fighting. Moms and dads aren't supposed to fight. And then the other kid's like, wait, what do you mean moms and dads aren't supposed to fight? They fight all the time. One of you is from a poor family. One of you is from a rich family. Neither of you is necessarily happy with your life.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, it's got just a lot of
one of those
weird
things to
takes
drive
on it.
home that like everyone's perspective is a little bit different and everyone's problems are a little bit different.
Yeah, but also I'm not 100% clear what was real by the end of that.
Uh-huh.
Several things could have been real. I don't know which were.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
It was definitely a really good time. I kind of want to play it again and see the robot side.
Right? Yeah, like it was cool to play because it was like, oh man, these puzzles are really clever, and the way they build on each other are really clever, and they also leave me wanting to see what the other person is doing.
Yes.
Because in some cases it's a wildly different experience.
Like that part where you're just like, you are a head, you could not see your body move.
Yeah, at one point my head and my body are in two different places. And we can move my head, I can control my body walking around normally, and my body can pick up my head, or, Kodra can pick up my head. Or my head can just be somewhere else. But my view is always centered on where my head is. And that doesn't actually always relate to where Kodra is, or where I need to be moving my body to.
There was a lot of that where I was just shepherding your body around and telling you how to move it.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where you were like telling me how to solve this puzzle. Because the answer was right in front of you and you could see it.
Yeah, but you couldn't.
Whole lot of, hey, what do you see now?
Did something change? Tell me something changed. I really hope something changed. But yeah, it was fun to play. It was really neat to see just what's happening.
Yeah, and it's a really cool concept. I've not seen something like, if it was kind of the whole like keep talking and no one explodes, except in that, like, one person is always the person explaining, one person is always the person solving. This helped keep it fresh where we're like both switching back and forth who's doing what.
Yeah, I would love to see more games. Like the level design here must be absolutely madness to try to figure out like exactly how they're going to break it up so that it all works. But the effect is so cool. But yeah, fun, like, I mean, what, 3.5, 4 hour little jaunt?
Yeah, it definitely more like less time consuming than like It Takes Two.
Yes.
Also, I like the story better than It Takes Two.
Also, yes. I think that there's a real challenge in telling a story in a co-op game without it becoming like overwrought or dragging the experience down, because you're all sitting there not talking to each other, not interacting, because you're either reading or watching cutscenes or whatever. And so you need this like combination of a light touch, but you also need a story that's like put together well enough and communicated well enough that you don't have it it doesn't get undercut when one of the people that's playing either misunderstands something or makes a joke. And that's a really, really hard needle to thread.
I do think there's something benefiting my two favorite games for that type of storytelling, which is a little bit of mystery. Because, like, BOKURA was really good at it, and it definitely had the, like, constant feeling of what is going on. The other game I think of when you say, like, great games to have a story told together is Wildermyth. And always there's just a little bit of what just happened to us here going on.
I mean, the other game that I think is the pinnacle of doing this is Borderlands 2.
Oh yeah.
And I think Borderlands 2 is like it's probably the finest co-op story game I've seen. Although Wildermyth is pretty close behind, just because it knows exactly how much storytelling to do, and it's totally okay if you crack jokes about it and talk about it because it wants you to do that. And like it wants you to get into the gaminess of it so that it can sucker punch you at the end.
Yes.
And like it works. So yeah, anyway, BOKURA was really good. It was one of those, like, I think I emerged from it being like, I feel like I ought to be sad, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm sad? It's like melancholy, I guess.
It's very melancholy, I'll grant you that.
But like, am I sad about it? I don't know if I'm sad about it. That's a hard question to answer.
I don't know. I'm kind of sad about it. The ending takes this really intense experience and then sands it down through the view of adulthood, and I'm like, oh yeah, you would just grow up and this wouldn't be the most important thing in your life, and oh, that's so weird to think about, but yeah, maybe that's okay. But like, also it's sad. I also think it's okay for it to be sad.
That's also fair.
Okay, this is a bit of a stale topic, but it's been on the list for a little bit, and I thought it would be interesting to at least talk about it. Booster packs are going away and are being replaced by something that is merging set boosters and draft boosters together.
I mean, what do you mean by booster packs are going away? Because booster
packs packs. I have to specify, like, you know, I am an old Magic the Gathering player. In 1996, they standardized on what a Magic pack looks like. 15 cards, 1 rare, 3 commons, a series of 3 uncommons, a series of commons, and some sort of a trash insert card.
And we've discovered that that's not necessarily fun.
Yeah, but is it though? Like, I didn't like set boosters.
Well, but do you like collector's boosters?
No.
What?
No, I hate foils. I legitimately hate foils with a passion. I like standard Magic cards. I like the extended art ones.
The alternate art is so cool, though.
The alternate arts are cool, but like I hate the foil versions. I cannot stand foils. I am the person that would sell the foils so I can buy the normal versions of cards. But no, I didn't like collector's boosters. I thought they were kind of a dumb idea.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you might be in the minority on that one.
Probably. But also, like, I remember going through exactly what Magic's going through right now with comics and sports cards. This is a path that does not end up in a good place.
Well, I'm not going to say that we aren't probably getting too much Magic, because it definitely feels like we might be getting too much Magic.
Yeah, I think so. But, I mean, it's going to take a while for that to shake out.
I'm a little overwhelmed by the amount of Magic. A little bit because I can't really play that much Magic right now. But, yeah, like, there's definitely a lot of stuff going on with Universes Beyonds and still trying to do a normal release cadence of Magic cards.
I've got to say, like, just looking at it from the outside as someone who doesn't play Magic anymore, like, Magic is kind of starting to feel like the monopoly of collectible card games. Give us some money and we will put your property and we will make your property our game.
Yeah, I think that all of the like Magic crossover stuff like started really cool.
D&D was a good start. I mean, after all, they own that property as well, and it's a fantasy property.
D&D made sense, and it's perfectly logical as like, yeah, okay, that's
Street Fighter was, I think, the beginning of it, right? Like Street
Fighter or Walking Dead. I don't remember which was first.
Walking Dead was the first.
They're both like, wait, what?
Walking Dead was the first, but Walking Dead was always intended to be replaced by cards. I don't know if Street Fighter, like, we know that the cards that they made there are going to get replaced with something else. Like, I don't know that they're gonna like reprint a card that is not Chun-Li, but the same mechanics as Chun-Li in a later set. But they did do that for all of the Walking Dead cards.
Right. They eventually got reprints or mechanical reprints.
Yeah. And now we've got is Doctor Who the most recent one? Is there
Doctor
something?
Who
Is there a
is-
newer one now?
Doctor Who is the most recent one. That set is wild. Like, I do feel like it's worthwhile watching the Loading Ready Run play of that set because it's very funny. Like, Graham is really into the Doctor and like dresses up as the fourth Doctor for the thing. And B, boy, those decks are complicated, and you got 4 extremely proficient Magic players just like trying to figure it out. And yeah, I think they went overboard on those set mechanics.
I mean, they look complicated, yes.
They're very complicated. And they interact in very complicated ways.
Very wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
That is in fact an ability.
Of course it is.
It lets you time travel 3 times when you activate it.
Oh dear.
What's time travel, you ask? Time travel lets you remove a time counter from each card you have with a time counter on it.
And what does a time counter do?
So there are cards called suspend cards.
God.
Where
These are actually predate the Doctor Who set.
These predate the Doctor Who set, yes.
Yeah,
so
that was like a Teferi era thing, right?
So, for example, you could spend 1 mana to suspend... it's not Ancestral Recall, but Ancestral Visions, and put 3 suspend counters on it. And each upkeep, you get to remove a suspend counter, and then at the end, when you remove the last suspend counter, you cast that spell.
Oh, okay.
And that would be let you draw 3 cards. So it's like, put a mana into this. In 3 turns, I get to draw 3 cards.
It's a way to reprint Ancestral Recall, but try and make it not broken.
Correct.
Which they've done several times now.
Yeah, they keep trying.
Here's the problem with it. It has no way to cast it normally, which technically means it has CMC 0.
Oh no.
Oh god.
This is why Hypergenesis decks basically are nothing but Cascade cards and big stupid creatures that you can't cascade into.
Madness. I also noticed when you were when the Doctor Who set was announced that you were to say like about the companions and stuff, and you mentioned that Rose is the default companion for the 10th Doctor, and that is wrong. Donna should be the default companion for the 10th Doctor. Rose goes with Eccleston, and I will die on that hill.
The 9th if you
This
want,
is the other pitfall of this.
If you want, there is the 9th Doctor, and you can absolutely play Rose with the 9th Doctor.
As you should. Like who else could possibly be the 9th Doctor's default companion?
Well, the 9th Doctor,
Mickey?
The 9th Doctor in Magic is not one of the default commanders.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, Ninth Doctor didn't necessarily get
But
his
course-
own deck.
But of course they had to make Rose one of the default companions because everybody loves Rose.
The Ninth Doctor, I think, is in the same deck with Rose, though. So if you want...
Good. 9th Doctor gets Rose. 10th Doctor gets Donna. 11th Doctor gets Clara.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even...
The 9th Doctor has Into the TARDIS. Whenever the 9th Doctor becomes untapped during your untap step, you get an additional upkeep step after this step. So the 9th Doctor, as long as it's untapping, gives you 2 upkeeps.
Oh my.
Timey-wimey.
So is there an 8th Doctor card?
I believe there's all of them. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, there's basically like I think 3 decks that are covering all the Doctors, and then there is a villains deck that covers like,
I just
Missy
asked,
and Master and
because the 8th Doctor is the one that kind of gets, skipped over a lot.
There is an 8th Doctor card.
All right.
I believe so. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards, and on each of your turns, you can play historic lands or cast historic permanents from your graveyard. And if you do, it gains when this permanent would leave the battlefield exiled instead of putting it anywhere else. So you can. It's a reanimator card. Weird.
I mean, that's what comes of him being half human and American, I guess. It's a weird time.
There's also Missy. Is the villain. That's the default commander of the villains deck. There's actually technically 14 doctors because the War Doctor.
The War Doctor's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the fourth Doctor put jelly baby tokens on things?
The fourth Doctor.
He should.
The fourth Doctor's power is Would You Like a, and whenever you do something, you create a food token.
All right. Perfect.
And the picture is the fourth Doctor holding out a bag of jelly babies.
Yes.
Yep, a paper bag of jelly babies.
No notes.
There's also River Song in this, which is the card that will cause you to misplay Magic more than you can possibly imagine.
I mean, that seems appropriate.
River Song says you draw from the bottom of your deck.
Play backwards. Yep. Because my question was about to be, so how do you play Magic backwards? But yeah, okay.
You can also get River Song's Journal, which has the Spoilers ability. I don't know. You might be the target audience for these decks.
I mean, possibly.
I mean, I'm the target audience for these decks.
River Song is in the 13th Doctor's deck by default. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of fine with them. If a pack, going back to what we were talking about originally, if a pack is supposed to have an integral part of play, then maybe it shouldn't be just the only consideration shouldn't be how we package up these cards to sell to people, which is kind of how draft boosters is a form of play wholly created through the whim of fate. And then Magic designers started developing sets so that it made sense based on the pack distribution that they kind of set themselves up with back in 1997 when they didn't know what they were doing. If they want to try and make a game which is oriented around these pack boosters, these draft boosters, or whatever they're calling play boosters, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I'm just going to be cynical and say probably the number one reason why they did this was just so they could remove one card from the pack.
Yeah, but aren't they putting multiple rares in now?
No. No. Not guaranteed rares. You have 6 commons. You have a slot that is either a list card or a common, which is skewed towards commons. There are 3 uncommons, so that's the same. There is 1 rare or mythic. There is a basic land. There is a non-foil wild card, which can be any rarity skewing towards common. A foil wild card, which can be any rarity skewing towards common. And an add card token, whatever card.
I want boosters to have non-standardized numbers of cards in them.
What?
Yeah, you know what you're getting in there.
That explicitly doesn't work for draft then.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could, if you have quote unquote bell luck, as you guys say, you could pull 3 mythics in the same pack.
Well, but it's interesting because you really want the person next to you to pull 2 mythics.
So that you can leech a mythic off that pack?
Exactly.
I mean, it does leave slightly less dregs towards the end of a draft, potentially.
I do kind of worry about making the pool 3 cards smaller for people who might be newer to draft and not being able to get to 23 cards in colors that work for them. I don't know about that, actually.
Yeah, because you're basically removing 1 card from every pack. So for each player, that's 3 cards. Yeah,
I don't know if this is. I think that experienced drafters are going to totally be fine with this because they weren't playing those last pick cards anyways. But draft is not a new person friendly format, and I think this is making it less new person friendly. So I'd say that's the wrong direction, in my opinion.
Well, okay, so actually, you're losing 2 cards. Well, I mean, they were already putting a basic land in most of the packs, so that was technically counting towards your 15. Is there a scenario where they weren't putting basic lands in the sets?
No, they were always putting a basic land. Although in some, the basic land could be replaced by like a dual land.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think, I don't know, like, I mean, are they counting the tap lands as basic lands in this scenario? I don't know.
No, they never did that.
Okay. I don't know. I just think it's weird, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, and that's, I guess that's the part that's weird about it, because it took them until 96 to standardize on 15, because they had some sets that were 15, some sets that were 8, some sets that were 12, and then we've been on 15 all this time until they introduced set boosters, and I think what they had 13 cards by default. So this is essentially a set booster with 1 extra card, or a draft booster with 1 less card. So I know we got a bit of a late start. Tam, is this next topic something that we can do?
Oh man, I think we should wait a week.
Okay. Okay. Some short things though. I read Bookshops and Bonedust. I highly suggest you all do the same.
Yay.
I've heard that was good, but I haven't had the chance to read it.
Had
I've
you
got
read
it on hold, so.
Did you read Legends and Lattes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it is, like, I can't say it's better than Legends and Lattes, but I like, it's as good. I mean, it's more Adventures of Viv, so I mean, it really, like, it does it you know, I didn't realize it was a prequel until it was about to release, but it was a good prequel. I also read This Is How You Lose the Time War that Thalen suggested.
It's a
that book
fantastic
was
book.
a wild ride.
Yes, it is.
Like, I would say, like, I would describe that to somebody as, what if Spy versus Spy was a Romeo and Juliet story set against a time Cold War?
Yep.
It's real short, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's just weird and wild and delightful.
I would definitely encourage people to try out Risk of Rain. It is a game that has made me like feel in awe of a boss fight better than like most games recently.
Yeah, Risk of Rain 2 is really, really fun. And like I was sort of lukewarm on the original Risk of Rain. Like, it was fine. I thought 2 was great.
I loved 1. 2 is great. That said, Reloaded also great.
Yeah,
but it is an old game. It doesn't require you to have liked 1 at least a little bit.
I mean, I liked 1, so I'm going to check it out. Any other final thoughts? Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.